Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Gene Clemens here. I am really excited. I'm really sorry. I should probably start there. I'm really sorry. Yesterday, I came out with my top 5 high school boys basketball players in the city of Savannah, and I realized that, about 3 to 4 minutes into the video, the sound cut out. If you've been in this industry long enough, you know that sometimes happens. So I wanted to apologize to all the young men out there that were looking at it, to the people who were looking at it, but I wanted to make sure I made things right. So I'm back here once again to give you my top 5 boys basketball players in Savannah. Now, again, I always like to start this by saying I have a criteria for any type of award, especially postseason awards. The first thing I always want to make sure of in a postseason award is that I don't devalue the award. And what I mean by that is I don't want to make the award less than what it should be because I'm out here putting more people on a team than should be on a team. So there are 5 players on a court. So there are only 5 people in this top 5. That's why it's a top 5. If I was doing a football, it would be a top 11. If I was doing volleyball, it would be a top 6, because I want you to understand this is valuable. There has value to it. There are so many young men in this county, in Savannah, that are worthy of being considered one of the best. And just because they're not in the 5, it doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that there's only 5. And I think that's significant. So that's one of the things that you'll notice. There's only 5 people here because there's only 5 people on the court. The other thing, how I came to these decisions, there was a mixture. I would probably say it was a 75-25 mixture. 75% was what their performances were this year, and only this year. The other 25% is potential. How good are they potentially? How good do they project to be? If the potential is high, mixed with the performance, that is how I came up with my formula. So if you're wondering, how did he think of this 5? This is how it was done. And don't worry, I saw almost every kid who plays in this county, and especially everyone that plays in the city, from public school to private school. I have seen them play. So if there's anybody that's at least knowledgeable enough to come out with a 5, I would believe that I have a little bit of say. Now, does that mean that my word is law? No. And if you have a disagreement, please leave a comment. I want to be able to hear from you. What do you think? Who do you think are your top 5 boys basketball players in Savannah? And don't be afraid to rank them like I did. Go from 5 to 1. Don't just say, well, these are my 5 in no particular order. No. If you have conviction, be strong in your convictions. So without further ado, here are my 5. Number 5, Gerald Colonel. Now, Gerald Colonel is a young man who I believe has a really high upside. He's a guy who's twitchy. He has a lot of athleticism to him. And that athleticism right now has allowed him to be the best shot blocker in Savannah. I think that's pretty easy to say. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that he is the best shot blocker in Savannah, in Chatham County. That athleticism on the offensive side is still coming along. Like, he's able to finish at the basket very well. He has that ability in him. But also, I think one of the things that he's going to have to continue to work on is that jump shot. He wants to. You don't have to be the best jump shooter of all time, but at 6'8", they are going to expect him to be able to step out and knock down a 15-footer. And in today's basketball, even possibly extend that to the three-point line. But if you're looking for someone who's twitchy, you're looking for someone who plays tough, who plays hard, you're not going to find a guy who does that at a level like Gerald Colonel does. So Number 5, Gerald Colonel is my number 5 in my top 5 this year, and congratulations to Gerald. Number 4, it's a guy out of Benedictine, Christian Neely. Now, Christian Neely was three region 3A region 4 or 4A region 3, however it works. He was the co-player of the year with Deontay Bass, who was a guy who could have been on this list if I had more than 5. But Christian Neely is a guy who I believe is really talented. He has a fluidity about his game, and the way in which he's able to finish at the basket, I think is something that makes him a really quality basketball player. I think that he has a lot of basketball IQ. He tends to make the right play. It's not always about him scoring. It's not always about him doing one thing. I think he brings an entirety to the game that you really like. His ability to attack the basket, how he's able to contort himself when it comes to dribbling and handling the ball and working through traffic when it comes to finishing at the basket. I think he has a good enough jump shot outside to be dangerous. Would I love to see that jump shot extend to be more consistent from the three-point line? Absolutely. Would I love to see him play just a little bit more physical? Absolutely. But I think those things will come in time. But right now, what you have is a really smart basketball player who has a really great feel and understanding for the game. And that's why he is my number 4 player on this top 5. Christian Neely, class of 22 from Benedictine. Now, as I move over to my number 3 player, he's a guy who is the youngest on the 5, only a sophomore, and that is Larry Johnson, class of 2024 from Beach High School. Now, one of the things about baby grandmama, as I call him, is he never seems to be rattled or flustered. And he has length. He has ball handling ability. He is a legitimate point guard. And at his size, with his athleticism, it's going to be a really tough matchup for anybody involved. One of the things that I really like about his game is that he finds a way to get into position to be balanced for an open shot. He knows when to attack the basket. He knows when to make the right pass. His basketball IQ is high for a guy who's only a sophomore. And we see it. There's some other really good sophomores in this area. I think about Jordan Cave. I think about Jeremiah James over at Jenkins. These young men are young men who are really coming along. Jordan Cave is at Islands, by the way. Young men who are really coming along and have an opportunity to be really good as sophomores already. But I believe that Larry Johnson has the highest upside of anybody in the county right now, because he combines the size, he combines athleticism, he has a shot, he can make threes, he can make mid-ranges, he can attack the basket, he'll dunk on you if you ain't paying attention to him. I think that he has probably the highest upside. That mixed with his performance this season lands him at number 3. Now at number 2, probably a shocker to some, but Deontay Bass. And the reason I have Bass as my number 2 guy is probably not any of his fault, but they had a really good team. And so when you have a really good team, you have a lot of players who are really good. You could expect to see some guys from Windsor Forest probably hit my top 5 next year, or a guy from Windsor Forest hit the top 5 next year. But they had a really strong squad. And when you have a strong squad that has a bunch of people on it that are good, sometimes your individual performance takes a back seat. But Bass is a young man who, in my opinion, is twitched up, heavy athlete, has the requisite length at 6'8" to be a legitimate problem. He's still growing into his body. The athleticism that you see that he has right now is not the athleticism you'll see by the time he's finished at Georgetown or wherever he finishes his basketball career at. He's a young man who has definitely worked on his game. You've seen more comfortability with his outside shot this year than you've seen from last year. So he's showing more facets of his game. But again, when I think about the person who should be number one, remember I told you guys, it is 75% what you did this year and 25% off potential. And because of that, my number one player this year, Antonio Baker, the guard over at Johnson High School. I think Antonio Baker was coming last year. He had a really great sophomore campaign, and I think he's only going to be better as next year rolls in. So his potential is high. If you look at his body, he's already kind of got a body that looks like a college kid. He's a little bit more filled out, and that's saying something, because I don't think he's really been in the weight room like you would think that a college kid has been in the weight room more. So as he continues to grow into his body, he gets stronger. It's going to be so difficult to stop him at the rim. He brings a really deft touch from distance. He's comfortable. He never seems out of control. You never get him like flustered. He seems to always have his wits about him. And this season on the court, he was undoubtedly the leader of that Johnson High School team. And that's saying something, because he had to replace a guy in Amandre Bowles, who was the do-everything guy for Johnson over the last few years. And so being able to replace Bowles, who just finished a great freshman year in junior college, and to come in and now be the man, that's saying something. So when you take his potential as probably will end up being like a 6'3", maybe a 6'4" guard when it's all said and done, he can play the one, he can play the two. When you mix that potential with what the production said this year, close to 20 points a game, I believe somewhere close to 5 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. Like when you add all of that up and the pressure that they were under to play in the region that they were in, to play against the competition that they played again early before they got into region play. To me, Antonio Baker was my number one guy, and number one with a bullet. So it will be interesting to see what happens as we go into the offseason and into next year. I know right now he hasn't had a lot of pub from those entities, but I think that's coming for him. I think people are going to look at the film, they're going to look at what he brings to the table and say, yo, this is a young man we need to jump on now. Don't be surprised if some really high-level D2s, some low major D1s start coming and taking a look at Antonio Baker. So that's my top 5. I'm really interested to know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Who did I leave off that you would have put into the 5? If I have the 5 that you like, is it in the order that you like? Tell me, leave a comment below. Make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure that you follow me on all social media platforms at Gene Clemens, and stay tuned, because my top 5 girls basketball players in the city of Savannah will be coming up here soon. Until next time, I've been Coach Gene Clemens. Y'all keep it breezy.